Hey gang, welcome back to Better Call Sexton. I'm your host, James Sexton. Before we begin, remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all those things. It really helps the channel. We've got a full docket for you today. We talk about, I learned something new about ovulation. We talk about quiet divorcing. Is it a thing? And what is the thing that it is? Can you live with your current and ex-wife at the same time and live to tell the story? And are women psychopaths? Opinions vary on that one. We got a great show. Remember to like and subscribe and stick around. Let's get after it.
All right, Jim, another episode, and it's another week of your fans on social media getting thirsty for old Jimmy boy over here.
Is that right?
Especially with this handcuffs clip has really set the ladies on fire.
You know, my nieces told me they were like, these bitches are thirsty on the handcuff post.
Let me read
First
you a couple
of all, you
of them.
got me into that, buddy. Not into handcuffs, but you got me into talking about it.
I deny this, Your Honor.
No. But you're the one who I made an offhand remark about, hey, maybe you guys are having a special evening and you did something like you got a book or a toy, you got some handcuffs, and you were like, oh, and that's what caused it. It took a long time for me to realize that the more you try to force things, the harder. Like, we've all had this experience if you've been in a romantic relationship where it's like Valentine's Day or a birthday, and you're like, we're going to get it on tonight. We're picking out the outfit, or we're going out to the dinner, and we're going to throw down. You know, we got a toy, whatever. I don't know, whatever. We got a book, whatever it might be. I don't know what your thing is, but whatever. We got the handcuffs, whatever it might be. I don't know what your particular fetish is. Now you know a little of mine. So, like, it was that obvious.
Are you putting them on? Or
I'm not putting them on. I'm putting them on. Not on me, but I'm putting them on. Yeah. All right. We can edit that out, right, Matt? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
We will make that a clip.
Yeah, that's going to be a clip for sure. For sure. I can't wait to read the comments on that.
You lobbed it up. I slammed it down. That's the alley-oop right there.
I got to know better than when I'm around you to line up shots like that. You're going to take them.
Let me read some of these comments.
Oh, boy.
This is when I said, Jim, are you putting on the handcuffs or putting on the handcuffs?
Yeah.
And they said,
I made clear that I'm putting on the handcuffs. I'm not wearing handcuffs. Yes.
They said, ooh, a kinky lawyer, fire emoji. Whoever you're handcuffing is one lucky lady, heart eye emojis. I like handcuffs too. Handcuffs, hang on, Sexton. Wow. Good God, I would pay to wear this man's handcuffs.
Wait, how much?
No, a slew of gifts, thirsty gifts reacting.
Wow.
And then my personal favorite, ovulation happened. Follow up with, especially with the handcuffs, a follow up with literally, another follow up with spot on. It was so ovulation behind the scenes. And Jim followed up saying, was that all I needed to do?
I learned about that one. No. Here's what I'll tell you. This is one where, because once they brought to my attention, my nieces, that this had blown up and there were comments all over it. That was one of the first comments, was something about when I was describing how, like, sometimes you're planning on having like a romantic night and it just kind of is okay, and then you have no plan for a romantic night and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, what was that? It was so good. And this woman commented, oh, ovulation, that's what it is. And a bunch of other women were like, oh yeah, that's absolutely what it is. And I was like, dude, why don't we teach men that? I didn't know that. I was today years old when I learned that. Like, why don't we, when they remember in grade school, like, they took the boys in one room and the girls in another room, and they would, I don't know if they do that anymore, but they would tell the boys about, okay, you're going to start having erections and things like that. And the girls, I imagine they were talking about menstruation. I have no idea. Like, I still to this day want to know what the hell they were talking about in there. But I really think that, like, this should have been covered. I mean, obviously, maybe you don't want to say it to like fourth graders, but it would be good to say to men, hey, by the way, get one of those period trackers, not because you want to know when she's going to have her period, but because you want to know when she's ovulating, because apparently that's when you have like knockdown, drag out sex. So I don't know. I learned that. I appreciate you. I forget what your name or your hashtag or whatever it was, but thank you. You educated me at the age of 53 years old. As to the flurry of interest in me handcuffing, I don't even know what to say, except I'm absolutely flattered. Listen, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm in a man over the age of 50, having any sexual vanity is probably one of the first signs of senility. Like, I just don't know that is the appeal. Like Better Call Sexton because I want some of that Sexton, like, that's not what the appeal of me usually is. But I am deeply moved by that. Thank you. It's very, very flattering. And I'm at the age where I'll take all the compliments that people are willing to give.
On the ovulation front, I believe it's a two-way street too. Not only can the male benefit from that, but I saw a clip on Instagram the other day. A study was done with exotic dancers.
Okay.
And
I'm listening.
Girls who were ovulating made like double the money than times that they were
so
not.
Interesting.
Because there was that pheromone thing going, and they were throwing money and attention because of the girls that were ovulating.
You know, I have to tell you, I think that there is more to what's going on than what we can see, right? I think that a lot of this stuff is energetic, it's pheromonal, it's, you know, all these other things. Schopenhauer, I think, said that we like to think that we are thinking machines that sometimes feel. But what we actually are is feeling machines that sometimes think. And I think that's the reality here, is that we don't always know why something's attractive or in the moment it's attractive. I think women, obviously, I'm not giving anything away when I say that women's, you know, preferences and feelings have more of a hormonal tie than men's, but there is certainly a hormonal component to men's. Look at any guy who's on TRT, look at any guy who has low testosterone. It definitely changes and shapes their personality in some ways. And look at like young men who are just coursing with natural testosterone, free testosterone. They're like apes in that like oof kind of a way. And you know, it's certainly like we are creatures of biology, whether we want to be or not.
Back to the first signs of salinity.
Oh, you mean you don't want to just talk about me handcuffing people for the rest of the show?
Please,
it's
never
apparently
again.
so popular. You brought it up, Kevin.
What do you think is the cutoff? Like, if you are a bachelor later into life, that's fine. But should you still be bragging about it, telling stories, openly sexual?
I think it starts to be kind of a bad look. I mean, look, I think people should enjoy themselves their whole lives. And I think part of the enjoyment of life is your sexuality and romance and all those things. So I would never begrudge anybody anything, but I do think there's an age where it starts to get kind of weird and creepy.
How old are you?
Sorry?
How old are you?
I'm 53.
All right, 53 is about that age, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think 53 is about that. I think I'm past that age. I actually think that your identifying mark should not be you're leading with your sexuality. I think at the age of 50, like, you know, to say that like the thing that makes me most interesting is that I'm handsome or that I'm good in bed. I don't know that I'm either. But if someone thought I was either or both, I don't think that's what I'm leading with. I don't think it's my greatest characteristic. There are much better looking people than me. And there are probably people much better in bed than me, including a younger version of me. So I think that's okay. And I think that it's okay to point that out or to see that. I also think, too, there has to be a relativity concept to this. Like I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine that, you know, there was a time when I would see a 28-year-old woman and I would think, oh, wow, she's very attractive, because 28 is a very attractive age for a woman. You know, women in her mid-20s, early 30s, mid-30s even, like 20s and 30s, very attractive, peak attractive age for women. I look at a 28-year-old woman now and I think, oh, when my son was in that like kindergarten, like months of the year, like January is that time when that's the little girl who is standing next to him because he's 28. So to look at that girl now in a lustful way, for me, feels really weird. Because when I looked at her standing next to my son, because they were classmates in kindergarten, I didn't look at her lecherously. I looked at her like, oh, look at a lovely young woman, you know, like a little girl. Like, and now I like to listen. There's something wonderful about being around youth, men or women. It's lovely to be around young people because they're at the beginning of their journey. They're moving through the world. Like there are some young female attorneys in their late 20s, early 30s who I have a very paternal relationship with, like a very like mentor type and protective type relationship with. And I don't see them, even though many of them are quite beautiful, I don't look at them that way. I really look at them like you would look at a flower, like, oh, it's so lovely and beautiful and it's blooming and it's a lovely thing. So I think there comes an age where you're supposed to regard people that way. Again, I'm not judging people. If someone is very virile in their 50s and 60s and someone in their 20s or 30s finds that person attractive, knock yourself out. Like people have a right to have age gap relationships. I've seen some very unsuccessful close age relationships. I've seen some very successful age gap relationships. But I definitely think leading with your sexuality post 50, particularly for a man, is kind of a weird, creepy look.
On the age gap front, it is a case-by-case basis, obviously.
Totally.
But is there any blanket statement you can make regarding that, or is it truly individual?
I think it's truly individual. I mean, I think the European rule, which is half your age plus 6, is an interesting mark, but it's also as arbitrary as anything else. I mean, look, guys, we all know once you pass a certain age, like, you know, the difference between a 46-year-old and a 49-year-old is like nothing in terms of their life, in terms of their stage. The difference between a freshman in high school and a senior in high school, go to a high school sometime. A freshman in high school is a little kid. A senior in high school like almost looks like an adult. They're not, but they almost look like an adult. It's the same age difference. It's like 3 years, 4 years age difference. But once you get older, like my sister is 6 years older than me. She was like a grown-up in my life until we both reached, I was 30, she was 36, and all of a sudden we were peers. You know, and we continue to be peers because we both had kids and we both had careers and we were both sort of moving in that journey. So again, age is somewhat relative. I get that. But I do think stage in life, your 20s is a time of like dynamic amounts of change, tons of self-exploration, figuring your shit out. I mean, again, I'd never go backwards personally. Like I would never want to be in my 30s again, my 40s again, my 20s again. I'm very happy where I am in the stage that I'm in. But I certainly think that when you're at a totally different stage than someone in their 20s, dating that person just seems crazy to me.
All right. You sent me this one earlier today.
All right.
Quiet divorcing.
I thought this was a very interesting article and it's a very interesting concept. Yeah, The Cut had a very interesting piece about this. And I think this is a phenomenon that doesn't make its way into my office. But, you know, I always talk about the divorce rate's 56%. And then I say, well, you know, what other percentage of people stay together for the kids or because they don't feel like giving away half their stuff? And this is a little bit of insight into that. It was a little bit of an exploration into this idea of a quiet divorce, meaning that people, it's like quiet quitting. Like we're not getting divorced because we don't want to go through all that and all the conflict and cost and hassle or any of the second order effects that come from it. But we're just like not really married anymore. We're just living in the same house. Maybe we're roommates and we just kind of like live in separate rooms and use separate bathrooms and just sort of don't check in with each other about where's the other person going or if they're having relationships with other people. And it's just this same idea of like, yeah, we're not going to get divorced, but we're not married in a traditional sense anymore, that our marriage has evolved or changed in some fashion, evolved or devolved in some way. I think it's really interesting. Again, really no way to track it other than like, you know, questioning people in a questionnaire fashion, which again, people are not always honest about. But it would be very interesting to see like what percentage of people are just like holding on to ties rather than truly engaged in a connected relationship of the traditional sort that they were in when the marriage started.
Here was a couple quotes from The Cut, or at least from Blair. Quote, I lowered my overall expectations, which lowered my disappointment in my husband and in myself. And that she said that in terms of, quote, going zombie on her marriage, changed her life for the better. And then there was Tanya, who said, quote, as long as I can be free, I don't give a shit whether I call myself a married woman or not. Yeah. So those are kind of two approaches to the quiet divorcing.
It is a form of quiet quitting. Like it really is. I mean, it's the same concept. It's like, look, in an ideal world, if you don't like your job, you'd quit your job. But if you're like, oh, that's a hassle, I'm just going to like stay here and not really do the job. I guess that's a way to do things. It's kind of an ostrich approach in some ways, and it's not really leaning into the reality of things. But hey, people live in a suspended disbelief in all kinds of aspects of their lives. So maybe there's something to that. I don't know. You know, I think that perfect is the enemy of good. So I think that if your marriage was at one point ideal and now it has slowly turned into something different than that, but there are still aspects of it that have value to you. Okay, like maybe you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Maybe these are just two people that have said, look, our priorities have shifted and changed. I mean, if a couple is married from the time they're in their 20s until they're in their 80s, you've got to think that they're probably not, for example, as sexually physical as they probably were in their 20s or 30s, right? Like their bodies have changed, their hormones have changed, like a lot has probably changed. Does that mean they're doing it wrong? No, it means that their life stage has changed and their relationship is adapted to the changes in their life stage or their body or whatever else. So maybe this is a form of acknowledging that and saying it's not that you're like quietly divorcing, you're just allowing your marriage to transition into something different. Again, marriage as a concept was created culturally when our lifespan was 40. You know, you were an elder of the tribe if you were 45 years old. Now that's not even considered really midlife, right? So why would we think a technology that was designed when the majority of women died in childbirth and the majority of children died before they reached adulthood because we didn't understand germ theory yet, or there were predators everywhere. So again, that technology is going to work in modern society where we live to 100 years old and we have the entire sum total of all human knowledge accessible to us in a device in our hands. Like we are primitive, species living in medieval institutions with godlike knowledge in our hands. How do you think that's going to go?
All right, we got a rather unorthodox setup for a divorced man. This is actor Michael Beach.
Yes.
Speaking on his setup in his house, which features his ex-wife living under the same roof with him as his current wife. Here he is describing it on Sway in the Morning.
On Black Love, I talk about the fact that my ex-wife lives with my wife and I and our kids. It is a rare situation. She's lived with us now for 7-8 years.
Wow.
And she's literally just a part of our family because my wife and Alicia and I have 4 young kids as well.
Mm-hmm.
They know we used to be married because our older children who are in their 30s, they come over all the time, and they know that Tracy is their mom and I'm their dad, but they're brothers and sisters, but their mom is different.
Yeah.
It just become this blended family that is awkward from the outside, but it actually works perfectly. The funny thing is they're together more than we are together because I take a job, I go out of town. When I was doing Aquaman, I was in Australia for 2 months. And then right after that, I was in South Africa doing a film.
Wow.
Alicia and Tracy got closer, and Tracy was very helpful with our kids. It's funny because sometimes on social media, it always comes up, you got this thing going on.
I think it's Polly.
It's nothing farther from the truth. Tracy...
Yeah, look, I first of all, there's more examples of this than that. He's just come out and said it, he's just talked about it more. But I've represented actors, I've represented musicians who have similar arrangements to this, where they have like a spouse and then a former spouse, and they have children with both spouses. And I think part of what he said is absolutely true, which is these people spend a lot of time on the road or on location. And so they're just not home a lot. So there's more of this like team or group unit concept of things. I don't know. My feeling on this is, hey, it seems to be working. If it's working, everybody in that dynamic is happy. Okay, great. Good for you. Like there's lots of different ways to live your lives, and this seems like a way for these people to be living their lives. They're working as a unit. Look, I would not want to live with my ex-wife and her husband, but I loved hanging out with them. Like I hung out with them quite a bit when my son got married recently. And at one point, her current husband, who she's been married to 15 years, much longer than she and I were ever married, he and I were like hanging out with the groomsmen and doing their bow ties. And then we both were kind of exhausted. And he was like, hey, like once a year I smoke a cigarette. You want to go out and smoke a cigarette with me? I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. And we went outside, we're smoking a cigarette. My ex-wife, his current wife, comes walking up. She's like, what the hell? You're old men. Why are you smoking? And we were like, oh my God. But we have a lot in common, he and I. Like we both were married. I was, and he is married to this person. We know her ups and her downs and her foibles and her moods. We both clearly have or had an affection for her, both have an affection for her. Like, I don't know, like there's lots of ways for people to get along with each other. Like if you can put down your ego a little bit and sort of, we're all sort of reinvented with each new relationship to some degree. And the me that she knew and the her that I knew is different than who she is now. And I don't think that, there's any reason to pretend otherwise. Like it's totally okay to just sort of say, hey, different chapters in your life can peacefully coexist. They coexist in your heart. Maybe to have them coexist in your home, it's a little avant-garde, but God bless. If everybody in that situation is happy, that's great. And there could be economic reasons why people are doing that. There could be child access reasons why people are doing that. There's a million reasons why people would do that. But here's what I'll tell you. If this guy's current wife and his ex-wife are able to get along with each other and be a support to each other, even with their children who are half siblings to each other, what an amazing thing. Like to have more people on your team. Like more people who are cheering for you, more people who are trying to move your unit, your group together forward. I don't know. That seems kind of amazing to me. So if everyone in that situation is comfortable with it, and the children, look, children just need people around them who love them and support them. And maybe what they're teaching their children is A, what a stable relationship looks like with the current partner, but also how you don't have to vilify someone because your relationship ended with them. And maybe you can look at a person and say, yeah, mom and dad didn't love each other in the very special way that married people are supposed to, but we still love each other. We're still friends. We still have a deep connection to each other. We're always going to be family to each other. What an amazing thing to be able to teach your children if it's true. So I applaud the guy. I think it's great. I applaud him and I applaud both of these women.
In your experience, these unorthodox setups, is it a true like happiness? I'm happy with my life, or like we have to do this because of the kids. We have to do this because he's on the road.
More often it's the latter. More often it's the like we have to do this because I think most people would prefer some space and prefer some proper boundaries. But again, it's a very personal thing. Also, the reasons why people say they're doing something and why they're actually doing it are very often discordant, right? So someone might say, oh, well, we're doing this for economic reasons, but in reality, there's some other psychological need happening there. It's not always clear, it's not always clear even to the people that are in it. But look, I don't want to give the impression that this is like a normalized thing that's happening all the time. This is just not the first example I've seen of this. I've seen lots of people over the course of a 25-year career, and having seen hundreds, if not thousands of families who've divorced in differing ways. I've seen other versions of this where ex-wife and current wife, or ex-husband and current husband all get along and have some ongoing interactions with each other and even gang up on, the former. Like, I think that's okay sometimes that we have this stereotypical idea in our heads that because people divorce, they must hate each other, or they must not even like to be around each other ever, or there's no value that they see in each other of the things. Again, this is a person that at some point you chose over the other 8 billion other options to be your person. To go from this is the person I choose over 8 billion other options to I hate this person, man, that's a hell of a jump. Like, it's actually a much shorter distance to say, I thought this was the person, and I see that it's a person who I care about, but it's not the person for me. That's a shorter distance. So I don't find that so strange, even though culturally we tend to find it strange.
Are these unorthodox situations ordinarily high net worth, fame, celebrity type people, or does it happen with the quote unquote regulars as well?
I think it happens a lot with the regulars because there's an economic incentive. Like I find representing high net worth clients, they have enough money to buy another apartment or buy another house, or to get, have a nanny that travels between two households so there's some stability between the kids, or to pay for multiple nannies to travel between households, or to have both people have a house in the Hamptons. Like, when you have economic resources, your options are exponentially, increased. But I've seen some high net worth people do it just because of the nature of their lifestyle. Like C-suite executives, they're not home a lot. Actors, successful musicians, they're not home a lot. Like, they're either traveling for business, or they're taking meetings, or they're on location, or they're recording an album, or they're touring. If they're an athlete, if it's the season, they're never around. If it's preseason, they're constantly training. And if it's the off season, they're suddenly home for 2 months. So each of those types of vocations, there's probably a different rule set that would work for that family dynamic, but we take this one size fits all approach to relationships and marriage and go, okay, that's how it has to be. And if it's anything other than that, you're doing it wrong, or you're doing something weird. And I don't know that that should necessarily be the way we approach it.
Experts say...
Experts?
I'm the expert.
We have
here.
to listen to them. I am experts.
Was
that a Big Lebowski reference?
I am expert on this
one.
I
am experts.
Experts say
that guy's a nihilist.
More women are psychopaths than previously thought. I think I'm the expert on this one. But one of the quotes from
I think all of us are.
A doctor here said the behavior of female psychopaths. Behavior of female psychopaths seems to be subtle
He's
enough.
A doctor of chiropractic.
And less obvious than male psychopaths, and therefore they're not recognized as much. But a small but mounting body of evidence describes female psychopaths as prone to expressing violence verbally rather than physically, with the violence being of a relational and emotional nature, more subtle and less obvious than expressed by male psychopaths, which all adds up to say, I feel like a man can like physically hurt you and a female will verbally and mentally and emotionally hurt you, but goddamn, are they not both psychopaths?
I mean, this is another one that I feel was like research done by the Center for Pointing Out Obvious Shit.
Well, I think one half of I think one gender would say, yeah, this is obvious, and the other one would go, I don't think so.
They were telling the truth. I think a lot of women would say, yeah, my thoughts are a storm sometimes, and that my, listen, I I used to say when I was in college and I still knew everything, I used to say that women are evil and men are stupid. That was my theory of the universe. Like that men are just dumb. We're just guided, like our prefrontal cortex doesn't work as well. And we're just guided by impulses like anger and horniness and hunger. Like these are our motivating forces. And women are much more tactical and much more like they lie better than men do. They sneak around better than men do. I will tell you, now that I have a PhD in infidelity after practicing law for so long, I'm telling you, like women, when they cheat, it's like a professional hit most of the time. Whereas men, it's like, oh, I saw this girl behind the dumpster. Like they're just whatever. Like it's so in women, it's like a really planned out, and they cheat better, you know, in terms of the reward they're receiving from the cheating. So I don't know. I mean, look, I think that the description you just gave, I remember having a conversation with a now retired forensic psychiatrist who I met when I cross-examined him during a custody trial. And we got to be friends, and I used to bring him on as a consultant for cases sometimes before he retired. And on one of the last cases I had him on, I had him sort of review the profile of this couple. And he said to me, because he was in his 80s at the time, he said, you know, Jim, there was a time we would have called this man evil. And then there was a time where we would call him a psychopath. And then there was a time where we would say he had an adjustment personality disorder. He's like, but they're all really different ways of saying the exact same thing. So I think it's the same concept. Like when you describe a psychopath as someone who has a self-interested agenda that they are very effective at being secretive towards, and that they have a sort of malevolent intention towards the people around them, that they're very good at masking. Like if that's the way you're defining that, then, you know, yeah, you can certainly point to like moments in people's lives where they've had the characteristics of a psychopath. And there probably are a lot of women. I've had a lot of female clients that mask is very impressive. Again, what is that a side effect of? Is it that women are evil? Is it that women are forced to hide their emotional state from a very early age, you know, and told that they have to put on a mask of how they relate to the world. And so they get better at doing that than men are, because men are allowed to emote in a different way, or we have a smaller range of emotions that are permissible between us. And women are sort of have to mask some of these things. I have no idea. Like that's for smarter people than me to figure out. But to suggest that, you know, I love these studies. Like I think that we all sort of like to look at this stuff and to go, aha, it's the theory of everything. That explains that. Again, I don't know if it's an overly simple box to put people in, but it depends on how you're defining psychopath. And this definition is so broad. It's not the DSM-4, you know, explanation of what that disorder is. It's a much broader definition. So.
Jim, tell the people who's more to blame, men or women, for divorce. Give me the answer.
Oh, Jesus, if only.
Give me the answer.
The answer is both. The answer is both. And actually now, because of marriage equality, it might, like men marrying men, they suck at it too. Women marrying women, they're terrible at it, and they have a high instance of domestic violence. Like none of us are really great at this, guys. Like whether you're like a C-suite executive and a billionaire, or like a dude who's like a ditch digger, like we all suck at this. Like you can be great at all kinds of other things. You write a great song, Grammy winner. You can be an amazing Academy Award winning actor. You can have an EGOT, whatever it is. You can still suck at this. Like we're just bad at this as a species. Over 50% of marriages end in divorce, and yet we keep marching on down the aisle. So I call that job security.
You dropped some gems there, but wrap it up with a Sexton-ism for the people.
Sexton-ism. All right, give me a second. You think I know these off the top of my head? Okay, here's the Sexton-ism. Compassion is a reflex, not a virtue.
Compassion is a reflex.
Compassion is a reflex, not a virtue.
Both me and Matt both looked up at the ceiling going, compassion is a reflex. So you know the wheels are spinning.
So there's a piece of you that is compassionate. All of us have it somewhere in them. If we don't, go see a psychiatrist. But there's a piece of you that when something happens, someone is upset with you, someone is mad, someone is disappointed, your compassion kicks in and you feel badly for this person and you think you're doing something wrong. That's because compassion is a reflex. It's not a virtue. A virtue is something that you are doing because it's the right thing to do. And you make either a conscious or you have a reflexive knowledge that this is the right thing to do. We have this belief that compassion is a virtue. And sometimes it is. But sometimes the compassionate thing to do and the right thing to do are different. Because sometimes you have to disappoint people if you're going to tell them the truth. Sometimes you have to hurt someone's feelings if you're telling them the truth. If the person looks terrible in something, they say, how do I look? They want you to say, oh my God, you look amazing. But the truth is, yeah, it's not very flattering. It doesn't look great on you. They want you to tell them the truth. So compassion, again, that reflex in you that wants to say, oh yeah, no, you look great, because it'll make them smile and light up. That's not what's needed. So compassion is a reflex, not a virtue. That's all the time we've got today, folks. Thanks for joining us. Remember, please, sextonshow.com to send us your viewer mail, your ideas for stories, or your feedback. We do read everything that you send to us. Remember to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. All those things are helping the channel grow every single day. Follow us on @NYC Divorce Lawyer on Instagram or @NYC Divorce Law on X, and we will look forward to seeing you soon. But for now, we're adjourned.